All right, we are back here with game number 2, getting ready to start here in just a minute. We've got All-Stars plus 19 in game number 1. Certainly seemed like it was going to be a lot higher, so good job to Profundity for finding ways to chip into the lead and bring it down to 19. Certainly makes it a little bit more of a competitive matchup for game number 2, and a lot more of a if you're looking from Profundity's standpoint, his chance to win is certainly a lot higher at 19 than it would be at 28 or 29. There's not too many deck options and matchups that available that somebody could win by 29. So I'm gonna step away for just 1 second here, reload on my beverage, and be right back. All right, we are back here, and the episode 1 objectives continue. I don't know if this was planned or just a happy accident, but we've got Profundity playing Darkside Combat using the new Maul effect. Let you make a nice beefy Maul. Establish Control, which gets Fondor or Corlag. We just saw him deploy Corlag. That gives you some extra force activation at docking base, unlikely to matter here. And then he played Drop for the third effect, which lets you stack a Just Played Interrupt, which opponent can then pay 3 force at any time to put back. And once per turn, lets you place a card from hand on the bottom of your used pile, so lets you put back some of your high destiny cards to track around. Nice 6s and 7s to draw for combat destiny. On the other side, we see All-Stars playing Lightside Senate. He goes with the typical strike planning start, which will let you pull Mon Mothma and a second character, some type of general usually. Um, Wackling and Like My Father before me for a nice beefy Luke. So he's playing more of a mains type version, I would guess. I'm just going to scroll back up in the chat and just see what other actions we've seen. He started the Jedi Council Chamber as well. We do see Lord Maul hit the table with his lightsaber. Alright. Like My Father. He played Rescue in the Clouds, which got stacked already. They pulled the grabber. Activated. We played Allstars played Owisa to get Boss Nass's chamber. Profundity had the flagship bridge in hand. He then used a force push to go for the early pressure here. Gets Maul, uses They Will Be No Match to get the lightsaber from reserve deck. Allstars uses strike planning and gets General Leia and Senator Mon Mothma out. And then passes and ends the turn. We see Profundity save 2 force behind, already down to a 4-card hand. Combat puts very few cards on the table, typically, and we certainly see him trying to lean on him with some early pressure, threatening a very large drain of 4 right off the bat with Maul's double-bladed lightsaber. And we'll see if Allstars has any type of response to that. The best counter to that, you could argue, would be to put a Jedi or something over here. It would flip the objective and it would prevent Profundity from being able to force drain. However, then that lets him set up his lightsaber combat, and since Maul wins combat, he adds 2 to the force loss. He could end up losing the same 4 cards. The only difference being is that he wouldn't have had to pay 3 force to do it, and lose a card from his lightsaber. So it could end up working out to be about the same total. Now, it is early enough in the game; both players would be blind drawing that second, those destinies. And light side Senate is typically known for having a lot of higher destiny cards in it as well. So certainly an interesting matchup here. I actually kind of like the dark side combat slightly more in this matchup. I'd say maybe like a 60-40 kind of thing in their favor. The question is whether or not it can win by more than 19. And I certainly think it has its own options and avenues of damage available to it that it could... the Senate could mitigate enough damage and cause enough between its own force drains and battles and things that it could pull away here. It's going to take advantage of ridiculously broken game text on Senator Palpatine. So if it can continue to initiate battles with EPP Qui-Gon and EPP Luke and Obi and things like that, clear characters, draw destiny, whether it be multiple destinies or not. Light side Senate can do very, very well. It would be up to dark side to have counter cards like Stunning Leader and projective telepathy and things like that to avoid battles. We already saw him use Force Push, which is sometimes a card that we'll also see dark side use to get out of a battle. And we do get the drain of 4. Profundity throws away, top decks a Tarkin V, and it's going to cause light side to peel 4 cards. We lose a Bail Organa, a Profundity, a Poe Dameron, and a Jedi's Resilience. So 3 very key cards to setting up a light side Space Force just went off the top there with Bail, Profundity, and Poe. And Jedi's Resilience, not quite the biggest loss for it. It is a nice Destiny 6, certainly has some usefulness, but typically we see 2 to 3 copies of that being played in light side Senate, so it's not a terrible loss. And again, we're in a situation here where we see Dark side applying a lot of early pressure to light side, trying to disrupt them before they can get themselves situated and set up, hoping to force some key cards being lost off the top. And certainly may have succeeded in that. Profundity, Bale, Poe is a pretty potent loss for light side this early. They are activating a ton of force though. Combat gives up 4 icons, plus we got the extra, Chandrilla out, the Boss Nash Chamber out, we got the Senate Hovercam out pretty quickly. So, light side's activating 18 with a huge force advantage on turn 2. And we see our first EPP hit the table, and it will be Rey with lightsaber, the one I forgot to mention. Also, Ahsoka is a possibility showing up as well. So 5 characters with lightsabers are available to light side here in this matchup. And they are going to add Captain Hera, who adds a destiny when she is with an Imperial, being Vader. We'll see if she lives long enough to get to that point. This particular site also makes Dark Jedi power +2. So choke Vader's power 8 there. So we got 9 to 8. Battle has been initiated. We'll see if Profundity has any type of stunning leader card or something that he wants to use. We did not see a shield pull from Allstars. He didn't pull the weapons display shield. That would cause 2 force loss if he were to stunning leader and exclude in this battle. Curious. Obviously doesn't want to get himself... there's a number of shields he's going to want to pull in this game. He may end up wanting the combat shield as well, possibly some type of retrieval shield. So he's trying not to get himself overextended on shield pulls. But there would be the possibility there to force 2 force loss if a stunning leader were to be played. It doesn't look like it is going to be unless... well, we're still on Profundity's clock, so Profundity's still thinking about potential actions here, I guess, and whether or not he wants to burn that stunning leader. He is going to. Okay. And that would be the thing. If Allstars had pulled the firepower weapons display shield, Profundity would have lost 2 force, but then he'd be on 3 shields, and then he'd have to pull the combat shield, which he's going to have to pull now, and that would be all 4, and that would have him overextended pretty early, and he would miss out on things like ultimatum that he's likely to want. So to try and mitigate this drain over here. Now, what the effect Mind Shield does is, in addition to limiting him to only being able to use 1 combat card per turn, it also says that let them make the first move may target only undercover spies and R2-D2. What does let them make the first move do? Once during your control phase, target one opponent's character present with your Dark Jedi at an interior Theed Palace site. Target is lost. So it's basically just, boom, you're dead. It's a pretty ridiculous mechanic. Definitely was intended to make sure that light side and dark side were interacting with each other with their main Jedi characters, but ridiculously overpowered mechanic that they put onto an objective that one of the first things the Players Committee did when it took over the game in 2002-2003 was make this defensive shield. See a Might of Republic played now by Allstars. See which, I would guess he's going to get Palpatine. Yep, he's going to get Palpatine. I mentioned him earlier. While in a Senate majority, once per turn, if opponent just drew Battle Destiny, use 1 force to add its destiny number to your total power. So you protect your advantage, your power advantage. So, whatever your opponent draws, you just add it to your power, and then you draw your Battle Destiny, so therefore you're always gaining on your opponent in terms of total power. So whether they draw a 1 or a 7, in terms of power, it doesn't ever actually change anything because with one force, light side gets that same number added to their total. Obviously, there is still attrition to deal with, but it's not. Light side often ends up outpowering dark side in most battles, which either forces dark side to peel cards or lose additional characters that they were hoping not to have to lose. We see Allstars pull a do or do not combo for his fourth do or do not shield for his fourth pull. And then he plays a fly casual to get a Tantive 4 out of his reserve deck. Profundity is going to pay to drain, and he is going to lose a Sonic Bombardment from the top of his reserve deck to drain for 4. Allstars loses a Battle Planes, top decks, a second Hover Cam, a Luke Jedi Knight, and a Rescue in the Clouds. With him starting like my father before me, he's probably running 3 to 4 copies, 4 to 5 copies of Luke Jedi Knight in this deck. So it is unlikely that we won't see an EPP Luke, of course, but I'd be curious to see how he chooses to use that Luke and where. Obviously he's going to want to set up a couple of good destinies first before having to worry about losing 4 a turn to Maul in terms of combats. And Profundity has one more character to add to this battle. It's going to be P59, who's going to take a shot at Captain Hera. Draws a Lord Sidious, and that's a miss. I figured he'd want to shoot Captain Hera and then potentially try and cause 2 force loss, and then try and choke her to remove her from the battle. Did not go as planned. We're going to see Rey swing at P59. We saw Profundity pull the Coward Shield. We saw Kylo last game where he swings at people and hits them and causes force loss. Rey, when she swings and hits people, she retrieves force. So he pulled the Coward Shield because he doesn't occupy 2 battlegrounds because the Senate is not a battleground. So Rey will not get to retrieve, and the retrieval will be canceled. P59 will be hit and forfeit 0 from the lightsaber. And then we'll see whether or not light side will be drawing 1 battle destiny or 2, depending on how Vader's choking mechanic works. And it's a 3. 2 unlucky destiny draws, no Sith Fury to redraw them. So Hera's going to get to draw 2 destiny, which likely means the end of Lord Darth Vader, Baron von Vaderham. That's a well-timed 7. For Darkseid there. No Senator Palpatine on table yet, so the power does not get added, but we do see Lightside draw a 5, which is going to be good enough to crack Vader's immunity, and now they'll draw a second Destiny just to mitigate some damages here. They draw a 6, so they're actually winning. They actually win the battle. 20-19, so it's either everybody dies or Hera stays, and I'm going to guess Hera's probably going to stay. We'll see Rey go. She covers 7. Then Vader will go. And since this battle was on Profundity's turn, Allstars has 18 force plus 12 cards in hand to work with which to redeploy additional characters to back up Captain Hera. And as I mentioned, with Profundity, with Senator Palpatine, he is going to get Palpatine to the Senate this turn. That'll flip. That'll make his senators in his deck higher when drawn for Destiny. And it will also provide some beatdown protection, because even if he were to put another Vader or like an EPP Kylo or somebody down and hit Hera, and then he draws Destiny, there's that overflow potential isn't there because Palpatine just adds the Destiny draw to the light side power as well. So interesting though, with him activating 18 Force, All-Stars can get right back down to that pile of Destinies that he just drew. So we see Palpatine come down, which flips the objective, and we could see now a character go after Lord Maul. He's got multiple high Destinies right there. It should be the 6/5 he just drew for Battle Destiny, followed by the cards he drew for Weapon Destiny, and there's Rey number 2. And we'll see what defensive cards Profundity has. It's the downside to the early force push and committing and losing force to get Maul on the table and paying to drain when you're activating a smaller amount, like he is that it limits your hand size and limits your card drawing ability and your ability to pull defensive cards like stunning leaders and force fields and things like that. And we add General Leia, who will add a force retrieval, which initiates a battle with a resistance character, retrieve a force. So that will let him retrieve that copy of Rey that he just lost, start getting a few of these cards back. Rey should attempt to swing at Maul here and would be successful because, again, these should be the Destinies that he just drew. Let's see if he's got a force field here. Yep, there's the fly casual, and then the 5. I forget what the 5 was. We're Doomed or Mind of the Republic. Oh, Wisa. And Rey will get to retrieve another force. Oh, we get a sorry about the mess. So All-Stars is going to play sorry about the mess here. He'll have to lose a force. He top decks a Might of the Republic. And that takes Maul off the table immediately. He should still get the response with Rey, because they're both justs to him being hit. Yep. So he will get to retrieve the sorry about the mess combo. It's one of those interesting timing things there, because you've got two, immediate actions. He chose to use the sorry about the mess combo here, and he lose one force to place opponent's just hit character in loss pile. So he lost a force. He played the sorry about the mess. Now we'll see him put Walkling out of play, and he's going to retrieve the Might of the Republic. So now he's got 2 cards and then a 5, and then he's going to move Hera over and consolidate. So if he were to come back and battle here, Rey would get a swing, and then he would draw a 5 for Battle Destiny. That's kind of what you're looking at there. Pretty stacked up site here for All-Stars. He's completely taken away all of Profundity's early advantage. No board presence left, just a 7-card hand, and only a 12 force activation here, with a lot of expensive dark side characters for Profundity. It's going to make this one a bit challenging for him to crawl back into this and win by 19. Excuse me. And again, I mentioned at the beginning, of course, very interesting deck choices. Not decks that we commonly see played as much, but it really just does go to show you the level of deck diversity in the current pool and environment. Looking through the OCS playoff games, we've seen, a lot of different light side and dark side objectives represented here, and again, we saw some more in this matchup here. 4 objectives that we really did not see a whole lot of in previous rounds, with Watto, WAP, let them make the first move, and the light side Senate objective, plead our case. And now Profundity has to figure out what exactly he's got up his sleeve left. Does he just take this turn off and just kind of reload his hand? Does he have anything that he can use to threaten this board position? Otherwise, he's potentially looking at a drain of 3 at this site. Should Darkseid be able to deploy a character and hit anyone? And you can hit Hera and send Hera used. That would thin things out a little bit there, but does have to be kind of cautious in how he proceeds. Again, the aforementioned Palpatine. Obviously, you've got Mon Mothma, who lets you take just drawn Destiny into hand, so if he does draw characters and things like that for Destiny, he can reload his hand with them. And Profundity's really going to think on this one for a little bit. He's requesting the action timer to be disabled, so he doesn't have to worry about that 5-minute timeout, assuming Allstars accepts, which he will. While Profundity figures out his turn, we will also talk about some upcoming things in the Star Wars CCG universe. Queso Sauce will be doing a show this coming Wednesday. Not sure on the exact time yet. The SWCCG Holo Theater show that he's been doing, where he will be spoiling some cards from the new Virtual Set 10, which should be being released here in the next couple of weeks, just in time for the holidays. Your holiday Christmas present from the Players Committee are some new cards to play with. So he'll be spoiling some cards, and then we expect by the end of the week, Thursday, Friday, that at least a preliminary spoiler list will be released. And we'll see what new cards come out in set 10. We've already seen one card spoiled. It was Profundity's card, Ezra Bridger, the last remaining lead character from the Star Wars Rebels show. Very interesting card that impacts force activation at a particular location. So be sure and head over to the PC forums to check out that discussion and spoiler. And then you should be getting a few more spoilers on Wednesday evening with the Holo Theater show. Not sure what guests Queso Sauce may have lined up for his show. Trying to get a couple of the player creators who designed the bulk of the cards in this set to come on the show and preview their card, talk a little about the thought process, the design process, and the intent and what they were really hoping to get out of this particular character. And while we were talking about that, Profundity did go ahead and commit his second Lord Maul to the table. He went to the opposite site to the 2-2 over here. Pitched his card out of play to get the lightsaber back from the lost pile. And then just went ahead and drew some cards to kind of reload his hand. Light side's going to continue to push their force activation advantage and pay 3 and do the drain for 3 at the core. Profundity's going to lose and accelerate from hand, which he no longer needs because he's got the bridge out. And then he's going to top deck a masterful move. And he still owes 1 more force. And with just his 12 force activation, he's kind of going to have to do this in stages. We see him put Maul over here. Couldn't really do a whole lot against these 3 characters. We're going to have to see, potentially, put Maul here first, then put a second character here, then move Maul over to them so he's got multiple guys in the way, or possibly Ellis over, and deploy some additional backup from hand. But that is the concern, of course, is that it gives Allstars a chance to reinforce his sight, and we do see our first Luke Jedi Knight hit the table. Now this flips the objective, which is what enables the combat mechanic. It also prevents Darkseid from initiating battle or draining at any location where they have a Dark Jedi. So Maul can't initiate battle, and Maul can't force drain here. So he stops this drain completely by having the objective flipped. Luke will get a lightsaber. Now he's got quite a bit of power stacked up over here. We see Profundity play a masterful move. He pulled a Visage of the Emperor. Expect him to stack that as a combat card. So he will be drawing at least a 7 for his combat destiny. Maul's lightsaber also adds 1 to the total. So he's looking at starting with an 8, and then he'll have 1 destiny draw. Allstars will be kind of blind drawing 2 cards. Although it's not so much blind drawing at this point because he's kind of put himself in a pretty good position with the early weapon destiny draws, putting that 5-6 together. And the fact that he's activating so much force, he's kind of been able to pace himself around to those cards. And I would not be surprised to see those 2 cards sitting exactly there again. Darkseid can cause some force loss by winning the combat. They're going to have to blind draw a card to do it, though. 5-6 would be 11. They'd have to blind draw at least a 4 to win the combat. That would cause 4 force loss, but it wouldn't make Luke be lost. The difference has to be 5 or greater. The lost force comes from reserve deck, so they'd have to lose 4 from the top of the reserve deck and lose the character. And with that 6-5 being put together so early and potentially tracked around by Allstars, it's going to be pretty hard to combat Luke off the table. Most likely what we're going to see Maul's going to move over. He's going to try and do the combat there, cause some force loss, and then there's going to be a pretty big battle there. And whether we've got multiple battle destinies with things like I Have You Now against Luke, or Maul strikes, drawing multiple destinies or possibly even dueling to try and get characters out of the battle, Hera being hit. There's also the possibility that Lightside just has a copy of the aforementioned Jedi's concentration and just negates all the swings and just has a huge power advantage. Could also see Rebel leadership being played by Leia to limit Darkseid to just 1 destiny. So there's all kinds of potential things that could happen in an upcoming battle. But at this point with Luke on the table, battle and combat is kind of what the corner Profundity is being forced into. Alright, so Profundity is going to add Asajj Ventress, permanent weapon character. She's power +1 with Dooku. She makes people hit and forfeit -2. She can potentially swing at up to 2 characters for a 1 force expenditure. It's unlikely that she'd hit two characters with this here. I mean, I guess you could. I mean, Hera and either of these two guys would be 8. So if you drew a 9, you can make them forfeit -2. Hera would go used. Rey would be forfeit -2, and then Maul could swing it like the other two. Um, but it is pretty tough to pull off. But she is just another good character with power and forfeit. Excuse me. And, an extra weapon to help just, do a one swing and clear out something. Just swing at Leia, clear Leia out, swing at Rey, and then Maul get 2 swings with his lightsaber. Certainly could have some options here. This particular Maul is immune to Clash of Sabers and attrition less than 6. He is not immune to Sorry About the Mess, as we saw previously, though. So if Lightside were to have an extra copy of Sorry About the Mess, you could remove Maul from the battle again next turn. Excuse me. And, beat up on Ventress. And for as much as we've seen Lightside really take sort of board control in this game, and the battles and things like that seem to go in Lightside's favor, Darkside is actually still ahead in total life force. Allstars has 20 face down plus 9 in hand for a total of 29. Profundity's got 29 down plus 6 in hand for a total of 35. So the benefit of the Darkside playing the lightsaber combat objective is that they put very few cards on the table, just a couple of locations, and then just some big beefy characters. But Allstars has put himself in a good position that even if he were to lose this game, which I'm not sure he does at this point, I think he's actually in a pretty good position to win the game outright. I certainly think it's likely that he would lose by less than 19. Just looking at the board state and position right now. So Allstars could be on his way to claiming the OCS championship title here. Although I know it will be considered a team victory. These guys were pretty adamant that they were all kind of working together and playing together and playtesting together for their team, and really helping each other out with each of their playoff matchups as much as possible in the preparation. So, and that's kind of the way these guys approach real life events as well. Always they put together a strong team, and they're always interested in doing things for the benefit of the team. So, Profundity reverts, takes Ventress back to hand. Ventress is a pilot. She doesn't add anything to power, but she does have a pilot icon, and he is going to go with the Emperor Shuttle package and a pilot here. So we've got Emperor on the shuttle, making it completely immune to attrition and adding a battle destiny. And with Ventress at least adding enough ability, it will be a 2 destiny draw and completely immune to attrition in space. Just going to block and mitigate that drain here, and then move Maul over. And then we could potentially see, well, he's going to try and do the combat first. See what he can do, see what he can get against Luke here. I'm pretty sure it's going to be 6-5 for Luke, but I don't know, maybe not. So there's the 7. That's going to end up about 15 cards down, which is going to be just past what he can activate next turn. Oh, and he does draw a 5 for the second one, so that's going to be a good total. Of 13. Is the lightsaber optional? No, adds 1 to his combat total. Okay, so it says 12 in the chat, but it is showing 13 at least there. Alright, and there's the 6-5. Not the 6-5 I was thinking they were. Okay, I figured it was the fly casual that he had again, but it's a different 6-5. So that would be a total of 11. And All Stars will have to lose 4. But he's in a position here where he can activate right back down to that 6/5. Because he activates 20 force a turn. The 4 cards he lost, he threw away a Wisa, a Leia Organa V from hand. This is the Senator version of Leia. And then he top decked a Jedi Luke and a Might of the Republic. And Profundity's just going to draw a couple cards here. If you're wondering why he did not battle in space, it's the aforementioned combat objective. You may not force drain at any location or initiate battle where you have a Dark Jedi. So he couldn't initiate battle here because of Emperor Palpatine. So he really just has to set up and, block this drain here. And see if Lightside wants to commit and initiate the battle against him. Or possibly just move away. Or just leave it there and just kind of stare at each other. And both players would be satisfying, battle plan at this time. Lightside did, nope, no destiny draws there, no battles. Does get around Coward though, so he can drain at the Senate here for 1. And it'll be a copy of Forlom from hand. Lightside only activated 10. Looking like they're going to need multiple destinies for weapon swings and battle destinies and things here. Horrocks Rider, while in a Senate majority, opponent may not draw more than 1 battle destiny at battleground systems. However, you may not cancel any battle destiny draws at systems, so they will only get 1 draw here now instead of 2, or with Tarkin potentially 3. And we see them throw EPP Obi down for some forfeit fodder. And I would expect to see, yep, there's the battle there. You've got a resistance character, so Leia's text kicks in. Solo gets to retrieve a force. No secret plan shield out, so it's free. Excuse me. Allstars gets back his Might of the Republic, and both sides are looking at drawing just 1 destiny. And Lightside certainly has the option, which I think they're going to take advantage of in this case, to spend the Force with Senator Palpatine to add, he draws Hearing Baby, which he uses Mothma to take into hand, which is good because he's shield busted and he may very well need that. Or to cancel I Have You Now. It's got multiple benefits in this matchup. Darkseid draws a Phantom Menace for a 7. And Palpatine is going to kick in and use his game text here and add that 7 to their power. So Lightside's going to maintain their 11 force advantage. EPP Obi gets thrown away. And now Darkside's looking at having to lose 11, even though they're immune to attrition. And what would have basically been like a 1 or 2 force loss because of broken Palpatine. Senator Palpatine, now Emperor Palpatine, is basically going away. And Profundity is looking at 2 additional battle damage, which I think he's going to have to peel 2 cards here and keep Ventress around. Oh, I was wrong. He's going to opt to lose Ventress and just have the empty shuttle. He may have a second pilot in hand to potentially move away or put somebody down. Alright, here comes the Hear Me Baby to pull the other shield. We'll see if now he chooses to get the weapons display. He does. And this game was very quickly turning into All Stars' favor. The early pressure by Profundity was was weathered, and now he is quickly falling behind in a game in which he needed a bigger win. He's going to use Like My Father to put a card from hand down as well, and go ahead and initiate battle at the core. Secret Plans is now out, so he will pay 1 to retrieve 1 with Leia spending his last force. And we do see Stunning Leader number 2 come out. Which does exclude everybody and will cost him 2 more force in order to do it. But now we'll see what tricks Darkseid has up his sleeve. Now, because of Deep Hatred, he cannot play Sniper, he cannot play You Are Beaten, so those normal paths of removal are not available to him. He does still have Disarmed as a potential option. We did see the Dr. E combo, though, not the normal Dr. E that sometimes we see with people who are playing Disarmed, so they can disarm someone and then deploy Dr. E and make the guy immediately lost. Actually, I think that has to be adjusts, but you get the point. You can deploy Dr. E and disarm people and make them lost. But even just disarming Luke in this situation, or Rey, would be very beneficial, taking a weapon swing away from light side. But they're both down to 4-card hands. Darkseid still has a 5-card force advantage. But again, we're needing to win by basically 20. Profundity is running out of time. And he is just going to go right to combat. He should be activated right back to that 7/5. Oh, he's got a 7. So he should have 2 7s then? Nope, he couldn't quite get to it. So it's still 7/5, and that's going to leave a 7 on top of his deck. And Luke's going to blind draw, if you want to call it that. And an unlucky draw from the reserve deck of a Luke's Lightsaber. A card that cannot be redrawn in any conventional way. Means that we are going to see All-Stars lose 4 force from reserve deck and have to lose Luke as well. So a break that finally goes Profundity's way. We see Qui-Gon, Padme, Senator Palpatine, and a Jedi's Resilience all get top decked. And Luke goes lost, flips the objective back, which also lets Darkseid retrieve a force, no aim high out. So that Stunning Leader will also get retrieved for free. So that was a very big moment for Darkseid. And with only a 4-card hand by All-Stars, it'd be interesting to see what he potentially has left to counter with. We should see the shuttle move away, and then he'll be able to draw a couple of cards here. He's at 24, 4, 28, so he can draw at least 4 or 5 cards here and still stay above that magic number of 19. We do also know that Lightside does have at least a limited retrieval option in Might of the Republic. I believe there's a Might in the Lost Pile that Solo could play at some point in time, which would let him retrieve 3 force for the current number of senators on the table. So hang on for just 1 second. And Profundity does go ahead and draw. Has drawn himself. He's down to 19 remaining, which is the tie point number. And he is going to drop a card back, literally, with drop. Still got 13 players joining us here this morning. Thank you guys for being up nice and early with us, although I'm guessing some of you may be European players. At least a couple of you guys are watching at a decent time. I know I saw Zlorfik in here earlier. Kevboz is in chat. What? That can't be right. That guy doesn't play Star Wars anymore. He's like a Game of Thrones finalist. Maybe it's Mrs. Kevboz watching. Just using her husband's account. She was a better Star Wars player than him anyway. Alright. Profundity will put another card back with drop. So that's the other advantage to using drop, and the combat objective is there has ways to get cards back out of its hand. Light side's going to continue to at least get the small drains in where it can, and just keep trying to whittle dark side below that number of 19. And then we'll see what it can set up here for this battle against Lord Maul. Profundity pitches 2 cards from hand. The Security Tower, which is not going to be beneficial at this point, and a Force Push, second copy of Force Push. They already used one on the first turn of the game. It's a once per game card, so. And we're going to see Jedi Luke number 3 hit the table, I believe. That actually may be 4, because I think he top decked 2. So there's Luke number 4 now. It does get that lightsaber that he drew for Combat Destiny out of the deck. Should leave at least a couple of decent cards remaining there. But you also look at the fact that he's sitting at a plus 14 power advantage right now. He's going to get to retrieve for battling. So he's going to get a Luke back, putting a 6 back in his deck. Rey's going to get a chance to swing at Maul, potentially getting him another Force Retrieval. Although I'm not sure he'd want to retrieve the lightsaber at this point. I mean, it's a card. A card is a card is a card. You just never like having good Destiny draws intermixed with random ones. There's the Force Field, which will get grabbed, taking one more card away from Darkseid. And it was the Rey swing, which I'm sure Allstars is fine with, because I don't know that he'd want to retrieve that Luke's lightsaber anyway. I mean, he did just retrieve a Luke, so obviously it's nice to have a saber to go with him, but now we'll get to see who Lord Maul wants to take a swing at, and whether Allstars has a blaster deflection in hand. He's got to go after Leia first. Seems like a strong candidate for characters to get rid of. Leia has allowed Lightside to retrieve, I think, about 4 cards so far. Ooh, double 7s. We're the Bait and a Phantom Menace. We're the Bait is an interesting 7 card because it is an Utini effect. I can't imagine that he's got much options for ways to do this, but it is an Utini effect, so it is something that's easily pullable. I also see players often use Mournful Roar because that is an immediate effect. And, you can fanfare and then take it into hand and then stack it with Maul to put a 7 in your hand. Luke's going to swing and draw 2 5s here. Jedi's Concentration and Escape Pod combo. So Maul will be hit and forfeit 0. And If Profundity does not have a Gick, then the game is over right here. Um, that is Kev Boss. What? I'm sure he's still wearing his pajama pants. Maul does get a second swing. He's going to hit Ray, pick her off. That tells me he definitely has the Gick, because if he didn't have the Gick, he likely would have swung at Hera just to take her off the board to get rid of a few more power, so he'd have to peel less cards. At this point in time, though, if he has to peel a bunch of cards, he's pretty much dead anyway. So Allstars gets a 4 for Battle Destiny there, which is the Bright Hope, which he'll take into hand with Mon Mothma, which he could go use to go fight the Emperor's Shuttle, just to get that off the board. And Darkseid likely to draw pretty strong here. It's 7. Hera only covers 6, and Luke is only immune to less than 7. Actually, he's not alone, so he's only immune to less than 6 as well. So it looks like we're going to get Leia, Rey, and Luke, and it's going to be just Hera chilling by herself here. And that's going to force Lightside into an interesting predicament. Obviously, they're in a good spot in which they can still drain. They can do 3, 4, 5 damage. But, you know, they may be running thin on characters at this point. All-Stars with only a 4-card hand, one of those cards being the Bright Hope. He may not have too much left available to him. And there we see him use solos once per game text to play a Jedi's Resilience from the Lost Pile to take Rey back into hand. A nice character that he can cheaply deploy. Profundity does have the Gick. We'll see Luke go. That'll leave Hera. Lightside can then drain for 5, and he can redeploy Rey to this site here to kind of reinforce Hera and really put the pressure on Darkseid and trying to finish this game off. Once Luke goes away, the objective does flip back. No aim high out, so Lightside or simple tricks. So Darkseid does get to retrieve a force, and they do get the Gick combo. And Tandiv is going to move over in front. But Hera's going to be kind of, I mean, she's not exactly hung out to dry because, again, we've got Palpatine over here. She's got 4 power. There's a number of characters she would draw Destiny against. So she's not in a terrible spot. Just whether or not she gets to live for a little bit longer, we'll have to wait and see. Profundity is going to play a Dark Time to activate an extra force. Let's see what he's got up his sleeve. Lord Maul number 3. Excuse me. For those of you in the chat who are wondering who this KevBoz guy is that I called out earlier, that would be two-time world champion and Star Wars CCG Hall of Famer Kevin Shannon, who hopefully now, after 3 years, has recovered from his devastating loss to Joe Olson at the 2015 Match Play Championship Finals, coming up on nearly 4 years now, right? And now that he's relocated, perhaps maybe joining us again at a future Star Wars CCG tournament. One can only hope. Well, looks like Profundity rewound things all the way back to the beginning of his turn, so he's not going to play that Dark Time. He's just going to deploy Maul. And there's Dr. E. So we'll have... He's got a decent power advantage, and Hera does not draw a Destiny. Hopefully for his sake, Allstars has a copy of Hujix here. Otherwise, at minimum, well, oh, no Force left available either. So he couldn't even use Palpatine if he wanted to. So I have to believe he's got a Hujix. Otherwise, this is just absolutely terrible. He'd be losing 9. He'd be down 9. Hera covers 6. So he'd be losing 3 plus whatever Darkseid draws. And Darkseid just drew a pile of 7s. So we'd be looking at potentially peeling 10 cards out of his remaining 21 life force. You know, Lightside Senate isn't known for often playing Hujix because they feel a lot more comfortable behind Palpatine, kind of mitigating things for them. But for this style of deck and for this type of matchup, I would think it would be vital to include a copy of Hujix. We saw him play escape pod combos, so it's pretty likely that there's at least one floating around in there for him to pull out. Otherwise, he's would be looking at peeling 8 force here after the Destiny draw of 5. And there is the Hujix. So Profundity took a swing for the fences here, and it came up just a little short, but he did get himself back in at least a little bit of board position here. He also got himself in a position where Coward is back in effect, because now Lightside is back down to just one battleground. Battle Plan is also in effect because this is not a battleground site. So Lightside would be paying to drain for only 1, and this would be canceled. We do know that Lightside does have the EPP Ray in hand. And Maul here is only immune to less than 5, so there is the possibility of deploying Ray, hit Dr. E, draw a 5, and clear Maul and kind of clear the site out. But based on the fact that he activated all 15 force, that's not likely. Ray's going to go to the adjacent site, get the battleground back, turn the damage back on. You're looking at 21 and 5, 26. Only needs to get him down to 19, so he just needs like 1 or 2 turns of consistent force drains. And doing 1, 2, 3 a turn would be a good way to reach that goal. He may also be looking to get to a position to set himself up now that he's got 2 battlegrounds again, to play a Might of the Republic and retrieve 3 cards. Get that Hujix back. I would expect him, if you were to do that, he would do it during Profundity's turn. so that way he could then retrieve the cards and set himself up for a big following turn, and have him probably save those remaining force, at least 3 of them, obviously to pay for secret plans, and 1 for Palpatine, in case he needs to add power to win a battle. Well, Allstars did draw 1 extra card, so it looks like he's not going for retrieval mode just yet. Although I suppose he could. He could leave 3. And then if he doesn't need to use Palpatine for a battle, play the Might of the Republic and retrieve 3. Allstars pitches a Might of the Republic and a Jedi's Concentration from hand. That definitely tells me he's got 2 Mights in hand, so he is very likely to set up this retrieval. He just put 2 5s on top of his lost pile, which are excellent candidates for cards to retrieve. So that way you have cards that, he spends the 3 force, he retrieves those, and then he can activate 7 force to get down to them, battle, draw the 2 5s, or draw something in a 5, and then have a 5 for battle destiny. Should a situation present itself, like if someone were to move over or deploy in front of Rey or the shuttle or something like that. That's how that process would usually work. But of course, the more cards that Profundity commits to the table, the fewer cards he has left to work with. He just went for a very bold move, playing a Sith Fury Lost to try and deploy a Dark Jedi from his reserve deck. I very rarely see this function of the card used, but it is there. Use 4 force to deploy a Dark Jedi from reserve deck once per game. There were no Dark Jedi. Allstars got to verify that and they both got to verify his deck. So that was a 4 force expenditure that netted no result. And Profundity is just going to have to move away. And I think he's now... Maul's going to move over. We'll probably see Dr. E come along too. Yep. And then he's going to draw a couple cards. I mean, obviously he can still drop to keep putting cards back, but he's getting himself into a bit of a position here now where he's right at that 19 number, or at least he will be. As light side continues to drain here. So he's got 16 down and 9 in hand, so he's still hovering at 25 total. He'll put 1 more back. But he's going to get drained for 2. And Allstars did not retrieve. Interesting. I really thought he would have used Might there and retrieved. And he did not. He will drain for 1 and 1 though. Profundity's going to go ahead and lose a Hollow Table. Interesting extra location. Is one he can pull with Masterful Move though. And some of his high destiny holograms like Image of the Dark Lord and Visage of the Emperor, could end up being deployed there to, do some force draining or whatnot. But it's just it's a non-battleground that's very difficult for light side to do anything to interact with. And then 1 at the Senate will be a Sonic Bombardment. Allstars will go ahead and just initiate battle, swing at Dr. E, who it should likely hit. That'll allow him to retrieve a force. And get that Jedi's concentration back. And there's that Wisa fly casual that he drew earlier in the game for Weapon Destiny. He will get to retrieve one. He's down 7 power right now. Rey covers 7. And of course, Palpatine should make up any difference. Ouch. Blind draw on a 1 there was pretty unfortunate. That means that Maul will live. I guess if he had known his destinies were, he would have swung at Maul. He's already grabbed force field, so there's no way that he'd have to worry about that there. He also didn't use Mon Mothma. Excuse me for a second. Alright, so he didn't use Mothma to take that second extra copy of Rey into hand. He does end up using Palpatine, so Rey dies, Dr. E dies, Maul gets to live. And the Tantive will give chase to the shuttle. 23 remaining total for Profundity. Allstarz has 18 left. And there will be a drain at 2, which will likely be 2 cards from hand from Allstarz. It's an escape pod, We're Doomed combo, and another Jedi's concentration. Shuttle runs away. See if we see Maul move back to the 3-2. Doesn't need to. He's fine there. He's actually more power at that 2-2 site. And Profundity's going to draw a couple cards and then drop. Did he put himself 14, 15, 16? Trying to see if he actually, he's got to be careful he doesn't get himself in a spot where he ends up overdrawing before he can put enough cards back that like Allstars could just quick scoop before he can put one back a turn to get himself back above that 19 number. He's down to 15 active face down, so he'd have to put at least 4 cards back to do it. Allstars opts to pay to drain this turn to cause 1 force loss from hand. It's the Gick. He'll drop a card back to increase his life total. We know he's got a dark time. So potentially he has at least 1 or 2 other used interrupts that he could try to cycle back. And we do get another copy of Luke, which will set up a dark side combat attempt. Also does give Darkside an opportunity to cycle more cards back between a card with drop and then a card being a combat card. Allstars will drop a card from hand to give himself one more force, which he could then pay to move the Tantive. I'm sure that's going to be a very high Destiny card he just put back as well. Highest Destiny card in his hand, probably another 6, which will then end up on top of his deck. So when Maul moves over to combat, he's at least drawing one good Destiny, and then hoping for a second one. He's got the 2 battlegrounds again, but doesn't have enough force, any force active or anything like that to pay for secret plans. So he really just has to hope that Luke can live for 1 turn. But again, Profundity's at 16 face down, so he's got to find a way to put 3 cards back to force a draw. Alright, there's a Cold Feet. That would be one of them. So he's got 17 down now. He can drop 1 and combat card 1, so at least he could get to a tie at 19 if the game were to end next turn. Profundity's done a great job of chipping away and getting back into this game with a well-timed Gick in a battle, and Maul using his weapon swings wisely, picking off some big characters, and just doing enough little damage here and there. And we see Grievous come down. Grievous is going to steal Luke's lightsaber out of the lost pile. That's going to increase Darkseid's drain potential. See if he's got a card in hand he can stack on Maul. And remember, the flip side of the combat objective only prevents you from battling or draining where you have a Dark Jedi. So Grievous can drain over there just fine. Nope. Profundity's going to just draw 2 cards. It's going to be the Cold Feet and whatever card he used for drop last turn. I would expect it to be a 7. It is. So he's got 12. Allstars is going to draw the card he put back with Luke and 1 other card. And he's potentially, yep, unless... two 5s. So Maul's going to win and cause 4 force loss, which can come from anywhere. And Allstars will be looking at 2 5s stacked together. Allstars loses a extra Senator from hand, a Bith Shuffle combo from hand. Interesting that he never played the Bith Shuffle combo to shuffle his opponent's reserve deck to keep him from tracking around all those 7s. Throws away the Bright Hope, and then top decks an EPP Obi. Profundity will get drained for 1. At least. He's going to have to move the shuttle away as well, so he's going to get drained for 1 more there. So he's going to have to lose 2 cards here. And Allstars might be able to just chip him down to that point. Or we might have to go to lost pile counts. And that could certainly be interesting. I believe it was a plus 20 advantage for All-Stars in terms of lost pile counts, which is a lot closer here. So All-Stars would win the lost pile differential there if it were to be a tie at 19. So really Profundity has to win the game by 20 in order to win the finals here. And he's only got 21 total force remaining. So as soon as he gets drained for 2 here, there's the might. Okay, so he was waiting on it. It will get grabbed. He'll pay 3, retrieve 3 cards. He'll drain for 2. Luke will move away because as long as Maul is there, he can't drain. Tantive will continue to chase the Emperor shuttle around. And that should be just enough to get him the turns and the time he needs to get Profundity down below 20. He does, of course, have to be careful that Luke doesn't end up leaving the table, because that would also let Darkseid retrieve a force when they flip their objective. But with 12 force remaining, it looked like that All-Stars would at least, if you were to lose the combat, even lose Luke, he would at least survive another turn and have enough force left to still be able to pay to drain 1 more card. So it looks like All-Stars has this one. Profundity is going to win the game, but it looks like it's going to be just under 19. And it looks like All-Stars is going to be your champion, but they, of course, do have to play it out. There may be some other type of trick up Darkseid sleeves. I'm at a loss for what it might be, but, you know, these guys are both creative and innovative deck builders, so there's plenty of things that they could have left going on here. Well, All-Stars does not move away with Luke. He intends to just draw a few cards instead. Obviously, Luke can't be battled, so all he can do is initiate lightsaber combat against him. Best case scenario, Profundity could drop one of the cards in hand, stack the second one for a combat, draw it for a combat destiny, and then he'd have no hand. But he only causes 4 force loss by doing that. And even if it had to come from reserve deck, All-Stars still has 8 remaining face down. So he'd be able to at least pay 3 to drain for 1 or beat up the shuttle or whatever. So I think he would at least cause enough force loss to end the game. Instead, Profundity is going to blind draw a 1 and a 2 for combat destiny. So it looks like Maul's going to actually lose this combat and lose 2 force. And that should be all she wrote. You know, these 2 players had been talking about playing together physically in the same location. So, I'm not sure if that happened or not, but if they had, I'm sure right now there was probably a little cheering, a little jeering going on between them over that. And Profundity is going to go ahead and concede the game at that point. And Allstarz97 is your 2018 Online Championship Series champion. So congratulations to Justin and to Mike on a great run through the playoffs. And both these guys for all their tremendous play and very innovative deck design, especially with their teammates, help in prepping for their matches. And thank you guys very much for tuning in with us this fine Sunday morning. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Like I said, be sure and tune in Wednesday night for the Hollow Theater show with Queso Sauce, where he'll be spoiling some new cards from the virtual set 10. We'll be having another OCS starting just a couple months here. A new round of qualifiers in 2019, and there may just be something else in the works for January that we're still trying to put the finishing touches on. Kind of running a little out of time here on it, but I'm very excited about it if it does get pulled off, and hopefully we can get the details finalized and posted in time to actually make it happen this year. Otherwise, it may have to sit on hold until next year. But thank you guys very much for joining us. Congratulations again to Allstars97, your 2018 OCS champion.